It started with a box that shouldn't have existed. I found it on my desk one gray Thursday morning, wrapped in brown paper and twine. No address, no return name. Just one word scrawled in red ink, 13. I'm a journalist, or at least I used to be. I covered disappearances. The weird ones. People who vanished without explanation, without struggle, as if they'd simply stepped out of reality. After my sister Amy disappeared 2 years ago, I stopped believing in accidents. She had been renting a short-term unit in a rundown building just outside Tacoma, Washington. It was called Lakeside Apartments. Her unit number 13. I pried open the box. Inside were pages torn. Yellowed. Some smeared with what looked like old ink, or maybe something darker. Each one began the same way. Day 1 at Lakeside Apartment 13. Different handwriting, different voices, but all cut off. Mid-sentence. After about a week. None of them signed their name. None of them explained what happened. Just one consistency. None of the people who wrote those entries were ever seen again. I flipped through them obsessively. The handwriting grew shakier toward the end of each note. Phrases repeated, words scratched out. Sentences started and abandoned. And always, the final page ended with something like, "There's someone standing outside my door," or "The knocking won't stop." I thought I saw facts. Each fragment felt like an unfinished breath. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called the Tacoma Police Department, asked for files on Lakeside Apartments. They said the building was condemned 3 months ago. Mold issues, safety hazards. The officer I spoke to said something else before hanging up. "You're not the first to ask about number 13. Just don't go in there." But I did, of course I did. Because there's something sick inside me that needs to know. And because Amy had written that same sentence in her journal, the last night before she vanished. "He's outside the door. He has no eyes. If I open it, I think I'll forget who I am." I arrived at the building just after dusk. The sky had the color of bruised flesh. Lakeside Apartments looked like it hadn't been touched in years, boarded windows. Yellow tape fluttering. A wind that smelled faintly like iron and mildew. But apartment 13 was intact. Unlocked and clean. Almost suspiciously so. The moment I stepped in, the door shut behind me with a click I didn't cause. The air inside was too still, like the space had been holding its breath. I opened my recorder, clicked it on, and started talking. I'm inside now, the layout's simple. Living room, kitchen, small hallway leading to the bedroom. Feels colder than it should. No electricity. But it smells like someone's been here recently. Soap, dust, something else. Metallic, a soft thud echoed behind me. I spun, nothing. But there were wet footprints on the carpet now. Just a few, leading away from the door. Barefoot. Too small to be mine. I tried the lights out of habit. Nothing. Then I walked toward the hallway. Something in me, call it survival instinct, said, "Don't go into the bedroom yet." So I opened the closet in the hall instead. There was a notebook on the floor. Empty pages, except the first line. Day 1 at Lakeside Apartment 13. And my own handwriting. But I hadn't written it. I stood there for a long time, just watching that sentence. My breath grew shallow. I could feel something shift, a subtle wrongness. Like gravity had leaned slightly left. And in that moment, I heard it. A whisper. Not a word. Just the sound of breath close to my ear. I turned. Nothing but the hallway light. The one that shouldn't have worked, it flickered on. I swear it did. And that's when I noticed the framed photo on the wall across from the bedroom. It hadn't been there before. It was a picture of a group of tenants smiling. Happy in front of apartment 13. My stomach dropped. Amy was in it, and so was I. But that photo was dated 6 days ago. I hadn't been here before today. I reached out to touch it and the glass cracked under my finger. Something in the bedroom moved. Soft, like cloth dragging against wood. I didn't want to look, but I did. The door was ajar now. It had been closed. Inside a mattress. An old, coiled one on the floor. And someone sitting on it. Facing the wall. Long black hair, gray hoodie. Amy, I stepped in. The figure didn't turn. I reached forward, hand shaking. Amy. She twitched. Not a flinch. more like a puppet jerked by unseen strings. And then she whispered something, a sound that came from somewhere far away, like a bad signal through a tunnel.
He lets you write.
Until you see him. I backed away. She began to turn. But I didn't stay to watch. I ran. Down the hall. Out the door. Into the dark. I didn't stop until I reached my car. But when I got in, the notebook was on the passenger seat. New words had been added. Day 2. The dreams have started. But they're not mine. I hadn't written that either.
But the handwriting matched mine perfectly.
I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back in the bedroom. The cracked photo, the twitch, the voice that didn't belong in this world. But the worst part wasn't the dream. It was waking up to find the notebook beside my pillow.
Page turned. Day 3. The man in the corner smiled last night.
His mouth was wrong.
I dropped it. Didn't touch it all day. Kept it on the far side of the room like a cursed thing.
But just before sunset, I gave in.
The pages felt heavier somehow.
The edges smelled like mildew and copper. I read on. The next entry began with a single sentence. The walls are listening. It wasn't just the words. It was how familiar they felt. As if I thought them myself. Or worse, had already written them.
Like I was reading a memory I hadn't made yet. I looked over the entries again. All of them now in my handwriting. My tone, my phrasing.
But I knew I hadn't written a word. At least, not yet. I should have walked away then. Burned the thing. Called someone. Anyone. But I didn't. Instead, I packed a bag, brought water, flashlights,
batteries. Left a note for a friend saying I was following a lead.
And I went back to apartment 13. Because something inside me whispered, you haven't reached the last page yet.
The building was worse this time.
The halls were darker. The air heavier. The third step creaked underfoot louder than it should have. Like it was announcing me. And when I reached the door to number 13, it was already open.
No lights. But the faint glow of dusk filtered through a tear in the boarded windows. Inside, the temperature dropped instantly. My breath fogged. I stepped in, closed the door behind me.
This time, I brought a notebook of my own. Fresh. Blank. I set it on the coffee table next to the other one, the old one, and waited.
Nothing happened. For hours.
Until 2:13 a.m. I know the time exactly because the clock on the wall, which had no batteries, ticked once. Just once. And then the knocking began.
3 slow taps on the bedroom door.
I hadn't closed it. I swear I hadn't. I rose, flashlight in hand. My mouth was dry, hands trembling. Light beam jittering across the hallway.
The air smelled different now, like old fabric and something faintly sweet. Like rotting fruit.
I crept closer. Each step seemed to sink into the floor a little more.
The door was shut. Something moved behind it.
A shadow, no feet visible below, just movement that didn't match human pacing. It dragged, like someone pulling themselves along. Then silence. I waited, and slowly, the doorknob turned. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, but the door didn't open. It clicked. And then, I heard writing. Not speech, not breath. Writing. The unmistakable scratch of pen against paper.
Coming from the living room.
I turned. The notebook, the old one, was open now. The pen was moving. No hand held it.
But it wrote. Line after line. Slowly. Like it was savoring every stroke. I forced myself forward. My eyes scanned the page.
It read, Day 4. He watched me through the reflection, but only when I blinked.
I turned to the window.
To the glass. Nothing there. I blinked and saw him, just for a second. A man in a suit.
Pale, lips too wide.
Eyes, no eyes, just shadows, where they should have been. Like someone had taken a photo and scrubbed them out. And he was gone. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. I backed away. Tripped.
Fell onto the couch.
And on the coffee table next to the notebook sat something new. A Polaroid. I picked it up with numb fingers.
It was a photo of me.
Asleep. In this apartment. In this very room. I hadn't fallen asleep. Had I the timestamp read tomorrow, 3 to 14 a.m.
The pen was still. The next line hadn't been written.
Yet, but I could feel it like something waiting to press its way out of the paper into the world.
I stayed frozen until morning.
As the sun rose, the apartment seemed normal again.
Quiet. Still, like it was pretending.
But the Polaroid stayed in my hand at night. Back home. I made the mistake of looking at the mirror in my hallway. The lights flickered.
The mirror fogged slightly. Even though there was no heat, no steam, no reason.
And then I saw it again.
Not the man this time. The room, apartment 13.
It was reflected in the mirror behind me.
Except, I wasn't standing in that reflection.
Someone else was. They were writing.
In my notebook. The one I left locked in my bag.
I turned. Nothing. But the bag was unzipped.
And my notebook, the fresh one, was open.
A new line had appeared.
Day 5. He's learning my name now.
Not written in my hand.
But in Amy's. I left the apartment for good the next morning.
Or at least, I thought I did.
I drove 3 hours out of Tacoma.
Stayed at a cheap motel off I-90. Didn't tell anyone where. Didn't bring the notebook. Or the Polaroid. Or even the clothes I wore inside apartment 13. I left it all behind. And still, it followed me. That night, the room phone rang. No caller ID, just one ring. I let it go. Then the notebook was on the floor beside the bed. I had locked it in the trunk of my car. Now it was here. Open to a new page. Day 6, I left, but he didn't.
I threw it in the bathtub.
Poured bleach. Set it on fire. It didn't burn. The flames curled around it but left the paper untouched. The ink stayed wet. As if just written. As if waiting for me to write back. So I did the only thing I could think of. I returned to Lakeside Apartments. But this time, not alone. I brought Grace, a friend from college, who now ran a podcast on haunted places. She didn't believe in ghosts. She believed in patterns. And this place had too many to ignore.
We set up cameras, EMF readers, thermal scanners, everything short of holy water.
She joked about it. Until the air changed.
Until the smell returned.
A thick, coppery sweetness. And then her laughter stopped. Dead. We found the new page inside the apartment before we even set our gear down.
It was taped to the wall.
My handwriting. I hadn't written it. Day 7. I'm not sure I'm still me. Grace picked it up. As soon as she touched it, the lights died. Every device powered off at once. Even the battery backups. Silence fell over the room like a blanket dropped from the ceiling. Then the knocking started again, but not on the bedroom door this time. On every door, bathroom, closet, front door, even the kitchen cabinets. Knock! 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 In perfect, echoing rhythm.
Grace tried the door.
It wouldn't budge. She whispered my name, not shouted. Whispered like anything louder would be a mistake. Then the bedroom light came on. By itself, just the bedroom. She stared at me. I stared back, and we both understood something we hadn't before.
We weren't supposed to be visitors. We were part of it now.
Something in that room wanted us to finish writing. To complete the story.
We left everything. Ran.
Didn't even grab the cameras.
We drove to a diner 20 miles away before either of us said a word.
Grace looked pale. Her hand shook as she stirred her coffee. I saw Amy, she whispered, in the reflection. She was mouthing something, like she knew I could see her. I asked what she said. She didn't answer, just slid her phone toward me. There was a new audio file saved from one of the mics. She hadn't hit record, but it recorded anyway. We listened together. At first, just static, then footsteps, then breathing, and then my voice. Day 8, he's almost finished with me, but I hadn't recorded that. I hadn't said it. Grace left town the next day, changed her number, deleted all her social media. I don't blame her. I stayed. I had to, because I realized something. Amy didn't disappear. She was overwritten.
Erased like an old page in a journal.
but not completely. Traces remained, enough to call back, to whisper, to warn.
And now it was my turn. Last night, I dreamed I was back in apartment 13.
Only it wasn't a dream, because this morning, when I woke up in my own bed, miles away there was dust on my feet. The same red dust from the apartment carpet, and the notebook was beside me again, open to the final page. Day 9. He's writing me better than I ever was. I'm losing time, losing words.
The entries keep appearing whether I write them or not. The last one said, Day 10. It's your turn now. I haven't written it down.
But you're reading it, aren't you? If you found this, if you're hearing this, he knows you too now.
In the page after mine,
it's blank. Waiting.
I tried everything. Therapists,
priests, paranormal investigators.
One guy even brought a handmade iron crucible and told me to bury the notebook in salt under a new moon.
It didn't work. The notebook always came back. Sometimes in the fridge, sometimes in my car. Once, inside a sealed cereal box I hadn't even opened yet. Always open, always waiting. Every time I picked it up, I felt colder. Not physically. Not even emotionally. Just less like me. My memories frayed at the edges. My handwriting appeared in other places, grocery lists I hadn't written. Notes to myself that I couldn't remember leaving. One day I found a receipt for gas at a station 5 hours north. I never drove there, but I recognized the timestamp. 3:14 a.m. Then came the dreams. More vivid than ever. I'd wake up standing, facing the mirror in my hallway, eyes open, unblinking, not breathing. One night, I heard whispering behind me. My reflection's mouth moved, but mine didn't. It said, "You're the last page." That's when I realized
Amy never disappeared.
Neither did the others. We're all still here, just rewritten, layered into the apartment like pages in a cursed book. Not dead. Not exactly.
But told over and over until we're nothing but words.
So this is it. My final entry.
I don't know if anyone will find it, or read it, or believe it. But if you're hearing my voice, if this journal, this story reached you somehow, then listen closely.
That blank page at the end, it's not just for me.
It's for you. Every person who hears this becomes part of it.
That's how it grows. That's how it remembers. Because apartment 13 isn't just a place, it's a story. And stories need endings. When I went back one last time, and yes, I went back, I found one final Polaroid. It was on the floor where the couch used to be. This time, it wasn't me in the photo. It was you, looking into the camera, eyes wide, standing in your room,
wearing what you have on right now.
Timestamp tomorrow, 3:14 a.m.
If you're still listening after all this,
leave a comment. Let me know you made it. Or just leave any mark at all. A scratch on the desk. A note to yourself. A page in your journal.
Because when it comes, you'll want to remember where it started.
And maybe, just maybe,
you'll get to finish your own story.
Before he does, sleep well tonight. But if you hear knocking, don't answer. Good night.